Welcome to this Roll for Crit review. Today we're going to turn the page and take a look at Call to Adventure, the card game where you'll be writing the stories of adventurers and seeing what kind of heroic path they will take. Will they gain triumph, or will they gain tragedy, or a lot of experience? It is all up to you. The game will start with you actually gaining 2 cards in each of the 3 categories, sort of to start your hero's idea of an origin, their motivation, and their destiny, which actually be hidden. It's sort of the final end game scoring goals, which could be like, because you could turn out to be an arc wizard, which means you want to have a lot of experience and wisdom and such. But in order to get all those points, you're going to have to get these cards.
On the field, there will be 2 main types of cards, traits and challenges. And on your turn, you're going to be trying to get one of those via different paths. There are 3 different acts, as you can see here. And when the game starts, only this first one will actually be face up, and you'll only be able to interact with that one. When someone gets a card, they place it under their board. So you can see right now, there are 3 cards on this person's board. And once you have 3 underneath your first card, then you would go on to your next one. At the start of that next person's turn, then they would reveal the next act, and at that point anyone is free to look at those cards, and so on. But the way you actually get them, if it's a trait, it will just give you a condition. For instance, this one says you may only gain this if you have a crown symbol on your card or you spend an experience point. So if you do that, you can just get this, put it under your card, you're golden. The other type of card though is a challenge. Those have a number on them that you need to meet or exceed by throwing runes. So they're sort of like dice, but they're not. They only have 2 sides. One of them is a success, one of them is blank, or this one has one that lets you draw a card. So you can throw these 3 basic ones you will always have, or you can add some if you have symbols that match the card. For instance, right here, this one has a strength symbol on it, and this player has a strength symbol on one of their cards. Actually, they have 2. So they could add 2 strength runes to that as well, which is nice for no charge. They can also spend experience points, if they have any, to add these dark runes. Dark runes have a good chance of giving you successes, but they also have a moon symbol. And if you get those, then you're going to move down on this track, which can make you lose points at the end of the game and hinder your ability to play certain types of cards. There are light cards and dark cards that we'll go over a little bit later. There are a bunch of these different symbols. Like I said, this is strength. They have ones for charisma, dexterity, wisdom. If you're familiar with these types of games, you'll be right at home with what they are exactly. So you throw all those. If you succeed, then you get to add it to your card pool. If you fail, the card is discarded, so nobody else can try to get it, but you do get 1 experience point for your troubles, so it's a little bit of a consolation prize, as well as you still get to draw a card if that card symbol came up. There's another type of card, which is the ally card. If one of these comes up, then they will go underneath a challenge of the active player's choice, and they will probably add to the difficulty of it, but they will also help people because they'll usually have an effect. So if you beat that challenge, you get this card as well, and that goes off to the side of your board, so it doesn't count towards your limit. There are also adversary cards. You can mix these into the deck, and they're just more powerful versions of challenges or traits, essentially, but they also are used heavily in the solo and cooperative modes of the game. In those, you would pick just one of these, and the adversary gets its own deck, and all players are ultimately working to try to conquer this card in order to win the game, and they have a condition where they're going to be gaining experience points, and they may end up winning and beating everybody. So once a player has gotten 9 cards on their board, 3 underneath of each one of these, then everyone else gets 1 final turn, and the game ends, and you count up your score.
So there's sort of a point salad, a lot of different ways to get points. So one of your biggest ways will be your destiny, as we mentioned earlier. At the end, everyone will flip it, and it'll have a way to get points. It could have just straight up points at the top, then usually points for other things. For example, this one actually gives points for every one of these cards you played. Now, these are cards you can get throughout the game. There are light versions and dark versions. I can't remember the exact names. But when you play them, they'll give a point, and you keep them out in front of you, not in a discard pile. And you can only play certain ones, though, depending on your score here. It's sort of like a morale track. So right now in this area, you only get 2 points at end game, but you can play both kind of cards. If you go to the extremes, you can only play the darker light cards, sort of like your characters being more of an anti-hero or the lawful good paladin. Something somewhere along those lines. Of course, there'll be other ways to get points here. Some of these cards have these special little symbols in gray. There's sort of a set collecting aspect there. So if you have like 2 crowns, it gives you a certain number of points. You have 3 crowns, it gives more. So you might want to try to collect certain sets as well, which is why allies can be really helpful because a lot of times they will provide one of those symbols. So that could be a nice little added bonus on the side. And it comes with a nice little mat here so you can write in everyone's scores. And it has the symbol scoring at the bottom too. So that's pretty much how you get all the points that come together. You don't get points for things in hand. And what they do say, though, is after you've looked at points, you should say, all right, my character started as a farmer, but then he fought the flames in order to become a lone wanderer, and you go through and try to, actually tell your little story.
Right. You kind of see how it went along. So, and generally, I mean, your motivation, basically your strategy for getting cards, I think it comes from, A, these cards you get at the beginning that will probably drive the way you play, especially this one, which types you want. B, which symbols that you're trying to get that might help you get other cards that you like. And C, like you said, these symbols that you're trying to get kind of set collections for. Sometimes they do kind of tie in thematically, at least it seemed that way sometimes in our games. Maybe we're just kind of filling in those blanks to make it more fun, but it would seem like, I did something noble and it gave me a more noble attribute.
They are tied in that way. Obviously, something that, like this one, prepare for war, you need strength or intelligence, your strategy, or literally just beating up everything.
Right.
So there is a bit more, they are tied in that kind of sense. You sort of understand like tragic loss gives you a lot of tragedy points.
Right. Yeah,
so
it makes sense.
Most in these cards, this deck is really how is the player interaction, I think, mostly. There is some in this, but it's mostly like I get 2 points and I give someone else 1 point. This is I'm making you reflip your runes.
Right. That's the one that punish people. And I guess the other interaction is trying to take cards you think other people might want or just competing for them.
A little bit, yeah. But you want to, if you want the same symbols. Remember, you only have room for 9, so
it might not be worth. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's as prevalent as a game like Splendor where you're really going for that. It depends on what comes out for you.
And going to the solo mode and competitive mode, you played the solo mode. Cooperative mode, sorry. You played the solo mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we played the cooperative mode.
Altogether we played the cooperative mode. They're both
pretty similar. They both pretty much work the same way, more or less. You're trying to work against, like I said, one of these adversaries, and they have a deck, and they might come out with a card that will
They do have specific cards that match with them.
Right.
That tell them how they get their experience, and usually
that's their quest, and then they actually have cards that come out of here.
The difference being... usually if they're in the deck, you can choose to fight them or not. In the cooperative mode, if you have 8 cards, you have to go for this for your 9th card. And then if someone gets that, it's just like in the other game, everyone has 1 more turn. Mm-hmm. What was a little weird though, when we played it, we noticed it just felt like we're playing the competitive mode with a little bit of twist because there's still an overall winner in the cooperative mode. It's similar to Legendary.
Yeah, it's more like it's possible for everyone to lose, but you're still competing. So I would say, I think it actually worked pretty well as a solo game. In terms of co-op, it definitely, I think, feels tacked on.
No, that's what we noticed. It felt like sort of like we should have co-op. Just use the solo rules.
Yeah, which I think is a bit of a shame because the game does seem to be presenting itself as more of a game with a storytelling and thematic focus. I think that's probably one of my biggest complaints about the game is the artwork is gorgeous. Oh, yeah. I love the cards. Mm-hmm. I love the design of the runes. And also just throwing these, even though it's basically just dice, it's fun. There's something just fun about the tactile feeling of throwing those runes. But the story element really does feel, again, very tacked on.
It feels really close though, because there are some really cool cards. This is actually a perfect example. They usually have a title like Murder Mystery, and you make a choice which one you want to do, putting on top and bottom. And for example, this one is either you solve the mystery or you conceal your crime. So you actually make a choice with a lot of these that I think are really cool. Like one of them is like save the crown or take it for your own. Mm-hmm. So it does have that fun, like if you're writing a story, it just feels like a lot of that can be sort of lost in just thinking about symbols and points.
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe it worked, that element worked a little better for you than it did for me. But yeah, a lot of it, it's definitely possible. Like I think you got to bring that to it. It's definitely easy to just be like, I want a success to get this symbol and kind of put that stuff in the background.
Let's say you rolled your things and you failed. So let's say I wasn't able to get this. I get an experience, which can be nice. But then you feel like I'm a card behind everyone, in which then you stop thinking about the story aspect, like, how can I possibly catch up?
Yeah, it can hurt a lot if you can just get a bunch of bad rolls in a row and just not be able to get anything, and you might end up 2 cards behind everybody, and that can be hard to catch. There's not, I don't think, really a great catch-up mechanic. That may be a time where maybe you got to go into those dark cards and start trying to mess everyone else up, but it can feel bad. I do like the element also of the experience and deciding if you want to spend it for these dark runes. That's kind of a press your luck element there, where you can risk doing it for a negative reward or a negative consequence. I guess it's a reward, but negative. So that's pretty fun. So overall, it's a relatively light game. Like I said, it kind of looks like Splendor and kind of felt like that to me, except with an element of more luck with the rolling aspect.
Like you said, I think light is the most important keyword to take from this. It should be a game that you're just simple and have fun, come up with a weird story to write about your character at the end, not something where you're really thinking about, okay, I'm going to try to get as many points as possible, because I don't think you'll really get that nice, deep, competitive spirit you might get from other games.
Here's our crits and misses for Call to Adventure. Crits. Although throwing the runes is not too dissimilar from rolling dice, there's something about the makeup of them that makes it a tactile and more engaging, fun, unique feeling experience that we enjoyed.
Well, not 100% sure. I think it might be because there's only 2 sides, so you can predict, like, all right, I've got like 3 of them that are guaranteed to be successes and 3 that are not, so I'm pretty likely to pass this.
There's a nice added layer of theme and storytelling over it, and it's fun to add a creative flair to the game, making up your story as you go. There are a variety of potential paths and strategies that you can take to get points from the different card types, bonuses you have available, and the starting bonuses that you have from the beginning of the game.
Misses. There's a big issue we didn't bring up before that seems to be a trend we've noticed in games, and that's the rulebook. It's frankly a bit incomplete, and there is an updated version you can find on BoardGameGeek, but we feel like most of this should be checked and be ready in the base game.
It isn't just minor errata. There are some important rules, clarifications, and explanations that are not included in the book, and that's a bummer.
The game tries to have some fun story mechanics as well as some competitive features, but we feel like it sort of just fence-sits and doesn't really go far enough in either direction. The story mechanic isn't too much of actually writing a story, had a couple cool things, and the runes, while cool to throw and try to get things in your favor, could feel really bad if you didn't succeed and put you far behind without a good catch-up mechanic.
Ultimately, a lot of the game is really just luck-based, so if you want to get the most out of it, you kind of have to bring your own storytelling and creativity to the game.
While we found the solo mode as well as the competitive mode fine, the cooperative mode really felt tacked on. We tried playing it and we didn't see why we didn't just play the competitive mode. And honestly, unless they release some really significant rules changes for that or maybe an expansion, we suggest you stay away from it.
I think depending on your mindset, you might go into the cooperative game, and if you're prepared for a more competitive cooperative game, you might find something to enjoy there, but definitely could have used further polish.
So, as we've seen with our crits and misses, I think a bit lukewarm. We had some fun times. I don't think it was like the greatest experience we had, but I want to sort of specify a bit more on that cooperative mode. For us, we have played plenty of games before that are semi-cooperative. Legendary is one we often say a lot. But I think the problem is in something like Legendary, there could be times when the enemies pile up on you so much you have to do the optimal move for the group, maybe not for yourself, because that's just how you're going to live. But in this game, there really wasn't a threat. We did actually lose completely, and that was because at the end, we had the enemy, it was the Warlock. We actually have the Warlord card here. But the first 2 people, myself and another player, who hit 8 cards, didn't actually want this card. We'd rather have something else, so we purposely failed it, constantly adding more experience to us. And now some people may say that's not the spirit of the game.
I was one of them.
Yes.
I said that.
I brought up that's the exact counterpoint. Remind me back with Dead of Winter, though, in which going for the group versus your individual goal. So I didn't think it provided enough to really define, as I guess, the individual versus the cooperative goal, which is why I'm like, might as well just do the competitive version.
Yeah, I agree. I will say in the game's defense, that co-op mode is literally defined on like 1 page of the rulebook. So I would say it's not as if they're presenting it like this is equally as much a mode you can play. Like
Exactly.
It really does feel like an afterthought.
Which is why I thought it was worth saying in the miss that until they come up with like a much more definitive rules as well as an expansion.
But I just don't think they were even interested. I think that was maybe more like some some people might want this, so we're just gonna do something in there. But definitely they want you to play it. I think the competitive style. But even in that style, like the two aren't very different. Yeah, I just didn't. It's an easy game to like. It's inoffensive. Like I said, the artwork is really nice, and there's like the rune throwing is fun. But at the end of the day, it wasn't anything that lit my world on fire. It wasn't something that, if I don't ever play this game again, I'll be fine. If I do, that's fine too. It was really like right in the middle of the road. Like, yeah, it's cool. If you really like the artwork and you like this idea. Now, there is an expansion coming for it, I believe. So it would be nice. Maybe that will add some elements that will spice things up a bit. Because I definitely think the foundation is there for something that could be cool.
No, it definitely, when I first played it, because I do enjoy we've said many times when you have something at the end to just still talk about win or lose. Mm-hmm. And some of these choices, like I said, I'm like, oh, that's sort of cool. But compared to some other games, I think that have a bit more story aspects to them, I don't think we were like, let's play again that same, like...
I think it's almost a little misleading, too, because they present it as if it really is, oh, you're going to go on this great adventure. And really, you're getting numbers and
Yeah,
symbols.
no, I mean, like,
Right.
First time I read these, I'm like, that was sort of cool. But, like, afterwards, I'm just like, I need green or do I need blue?
Right. So... that's what it is. Call to Adventure. It does have a ton of buzz behind it. A lot of people really like it. If you're one of those people, let us know in the comments down below. I'd be very interested to hear what you think about the different strategies as well as the different modes, whether it's solo or co-op or competitive. Talk to us down there. And you can also follow us at all other places linked in the description. And we thank you for watching. And thank you for joining us, and have a great day and the rest of your life, too. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this has been our adventure for the Roll for Crit review.
Here's an idea. Support our Patreon or like and subscribe to this channel for more.
Fagulu Miktawa audio expansion Wakana Cthulhu awesome.